Starting a business is very similar to getting married. You're just like, dude, this is gonna be great. I can have sex regularly. Someone's gonna cook and clean for me, but they don't tell you like all the work and all the details of what's about to happen.
Now as a CPA, somebody comes to me, they're self-employed. I know immediately what to ask for. I need all of your other tax documents from your brokerages, any W-2s that you may have, your spouse may have. But what else do I need? A profit and loss statement. What would you leave to 2016 Brian Davila now?
Hiring bookkeeper and CPA if you can get it all in one up front. And then 2, working with someone that specifically understands your industry, because every industry is different. Don't just go with the local guy just because the building says taxes. That's what I did like the first 5 or 6 years.
Hey, my name's Matt Bontrager, and I run, as you guys know, I run a CPA firm called TrueBooks that specializes in tax and accounting for real estate investors and small business owners. This is an episode where we dive in and talk with a client one-to-one on how they feel about tax and accounting from a business owner's perspective. So I got one of my good friends here, Brian Davila, who I've known for a long time. So we'll deep dive a little bit of that, but then I want to ask some questions specifically to his mindset around the importance of tax and accounting as a successful business owner. So first, thanks for being here, Brian.
Thank you.
But first, give us a little gist of, not about how we met or anything about that, but just about who you are and what you do now.
Yeah, so my name is Brian Davila. I've been in real estate since 2016. I've been a realtor, real estate investor, wholesaler. I own a bunch, like, I don't know, 15 or so rental properties, 3 or 4 Airbnbs, and then we flip houses, and I do education, and then I do some sponsorships, so I kind of have income coming in from a bunch of different places.
Okay, so you've been in real estate for about 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years.
So before we talk about, again, your journey through the 9 years of dealing with taxes and right, accounting, bookkeeping, your favorite topics, which we just got done here talking in the office for the last 3.5 hours about.
Yeah.
What did you do before real estate? Were you a W-2 employee?
Yeah, I was just a regular W-2 employee.
How did you do your taxes when you were a W-2 employee?
I think I just went into like some office that said taxes, and I believe they put it into TurboTax or some sort of like tax software, and it was just like a 20-minute thing.
But you got your taxes prepared by an individual, not like you didn't use TurboTax yourself.
No.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. I've never been a believer of doing things myself.
That's good. That's got to be somewhat what led you to be a business owner.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Okay. So talk to me about, let's correlate what your journey of, again, tax and accounting was early on in your career. So you, W-2 employee, you leave your real estate when you started out?
I was a real estate agent.
So you're self-employed, you get a 1099 from your broker.
Yep.
What was your tax setup like starting out as a entrepreneur business owner?
Yeah. So when I first started, my broker told me to not set up an LLC until I made at least $100K. So like my first year, it was just my name.
Okay.
And then after like the first 6 to 8 months of my first year, I already passed 100K. So then my broker's like, you need to go set up an LLC. So I walked into, I don't even know how I found the guy.
You did this with someone else as well. You didn't do it yourself online.
No. Yeah, no.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I walked into some office and the guy was like, oh, what do you want to name your LLC? I was like, I don't know, LLC. But that was tooken. So he was like, oh, you could just do. I shouldn't even be saying my LLC name, actually. This is not actually, yeah.
Okay, so we'll bleep that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was just like, oh, you can name it XYZ. And then I was like, okay. And then that was it. There was no like strategy, or I didn't, in hindsight, I wouldn't have put my LLC name what I put it. But yeah.
Well, funny though. So again, we'll leave it off the record for, again, more so like personal information reasons. But funny rule is you have to. It has to be what you did.
Oh, okay. Why?
So the real estate division requires that because they don't want any sort of bad actors. I can't be Matt Bontrager doing real estate as like Team Pup and Suds. They don't allow people to do that. So it has to be what you did.
Maybe that's why I did that.
So, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, that probably is.
Okay.
Okay. But so even from that standpoint, then when you first started out as a business owner, it wasn't, hey, get an LLC for taxes. It was get an LLC for what? Like, why did you?
Because my broker said, and then I was supposedly going to save money on taxes. So I was like, okay.
Did anybody, so going into becoming an entrepreneur or business owner, did anybody even prep you for what it is that you had to do as a business owner now, what you had to do for tax reasons?
No.
Did you know what you had to do?
No, that's why I was upset at you, because I felt like,
well, it couldn't have been better. Okay. If you guys can't tell, Brian and I have somewhat of a contentious, like a brotherly, like argumentative relationship.
In the
but
beginning,
it couldn't have been
no one
me
told
though.
Me that.
Well, I was gonna say it couldn't have been me. I'm not. You can't start blaming me for things I didn't even know you then.
Yeah. You're the first CPA that I met. So, but at the time, no, it was just like, oh, you need an LLC. So I was like, okay, great. Like I didn't understand what I was doing or anything. I was just doing it. I think most people are like that. They're like, oh, get an LLC. You're going to save money on taxes. You won't get sued. Like I hear people say that all the time when they're like talking about getting an LLC.
That is what we see too. From the CPA side, a lot of people are told, hey, you need an LLC for taxes. Let me look every camera in the face. You do not need an LLC for taxes. You need an LLC for what it is, which is limited liability company. It's for limited liability. It's to help protect your downside in the event that you're sued. So that's interesting then. Going into becoming a business owner, no one told you that you had to now have an LLC, but also separate bank accounts to track your income, track your expenses. Yeah. Did anybody talk to you about bookkeeping at all, tracking your money?
Of course not. So starting a business is very similar to getting married. You're just like, dude, this is going to be great. I can have sex regularly. Like someone's going to cook and clean for me, but they don't tell you like all the work and all the details of what's about to happen. So when you start a business, you're like, oh, it's going to be great. I'm going to make a bunch of money. I started an LLC. I'm going to save on taxes. But no one talks to you about QuickBooks. No one talks to you about
Well, so talk to me then. When you went to go do your first tax return, which this would have been 2016, 2017, March, April rolls around.
Yeah.
You go to do your taxes, and I get this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Do you even, because what I'm trying to get to is now as a CPA, somebody comes to me, they're self-employed. I know immediately what to ask for. I need all of your other tax documents from your brokerages, any W-2s that you may have, your spouse may have. But what else do I need? A profit and loss statement. You're self-employed now. There's no one withholding taxes for you. I need to know what your income was and what your expenses were. So when you went to go do your taxes, did anybody ask you for these things? Or did
when I went to go file them, they're like, hey, we need this and this and this. And then I was just like,
were you like, whoa, what is it?
Yeah. Then I was like, okay, get QuickBooks. And then I was like, okay. So yeah,
so you're already behind come that tax season.
Oh yeah,
you're playing catch up then.
Yeah. I've been playing catch up on taxes since I started real estate. And that's why right now I'm so tired. I'm at the end of the funnel when it comes to paying for Matt sent me an invoice for 8K. I'm like, here we go. Yes. Here you go. I'm like right where he wants me. Like, okay, yeah. Here you go.
Because you've had enough pain in the past. So let's put a little bit of a lesson here is, right? So anybody that is self-employed, let's compare it to being W-2'd, right? W-2'd, I get a paycheck every 2 weeks. The employer is going to withhold some of my pay. I make 10 grand. They're going to withhold 2, let's say. They're going to send that off to the IRS. I take home 8 in the very simplistic scenario. Mm-hmm. That way, at the end of the year, I've withheld some of it in this sort of piggy bank with the IRS, and my net pay is what I got. And at the end of the year, if I owe a little bit more, owe a little bit less, I may get a refund or have to owe a little bit more. When you're self-employed, no one's withholding any money.
Yeah.
It's your duty now to send in money every quarter, but also now show what I made and what I spent. Because at the end of the year, a broker in Brian's scenario is going to give you a document that just says how much money you made, not how much money you spent.
Exactly.
One of the biggest things that we see is we've had people send us 1099s, which is the form that somebody that paid you will give you. And we've had people say, hey, I have a 1099 for $100,000 here. And they won't give us any expenses. And we're thinking, what are you doing here? Like, you want to pay tax on this entire amount? No, you likely have expenses. You ran a business. So what'd you make your first year? What was on your 1099, you think?
Probably like 169 or something like that.
Though. Okay.
Yeah.
So you make 170 grand, let's say. You probably didn't net 170 grand. You probably netted 130.
Maybe, yeah.
What'd you spend money on? Clothing, advertising, what?
A car. I mean, at the time, I wasn't spending a lot of money, so car. That's another thing. Like people, this is a good question. Every time I talk to people, right, and they're like, I made 200K and I paid nothing in tax. I'm like, how? Because I feel like I always end up paying. That's something that I've always just been so puzzled when I speak to people. And I've done cost segregations, I've done depreciation, I've done all these things, but I've always ended up paying. And I always wonder, I'm like, A, are these people lying? Or B, are they just taking write-offs on things that they really wouldn't have? Because even at 169K, what write-offs do I have? I had a car.
No, as an agent, you're very lean.
Exactly. Yeah, I've always been very lean. So I've always wondered. I'm like, how are these people paying nothing? Yeah, because I'm just like, yeah, that's another thing that's always frustrating.
I think
me.
it's a cool thing to say nowadays, but in reality, from tax returns, we see it. They're not really doing that. In your case, way fast forward to now in the year that we're in, 2025, you have the ability to potentially pay nothing or substantially reduce.
But I haven't. I've always paid a lot.
Hopefully we're on the path now, which is what we'll get to bookkeeping and good tax work.
But still, even with bookkeeping, like if I make $1 million,
just to pause, bookkeeping is not really the reason that you're going to pay less. It's the cost segs and the investments that you make.
But even with cost segs, like I would have to do a massive cost seg. If so maybe that's another thing. When I say I made XYZ, usually that's like what I made. That's not my gross.
Well, that's what's also very frustrating as a CPA, and I like to call people out online. I hate there was an investor. I won't get namesy, but I'll drop some hints here for some of my other real estate investors out of Texas. One of our guys in Texas loves the Rolls Royce. Tell you after.
Just say it and we'll bleep it. Okay.
Just fucking bothers me.
Why?
Is because he had posted one time on Instagram his gross income number on the tax return. And as you just said, that's what I made. That's net. You're talking net. That's what CPAs and business owners care about. That's the net. He had posted his gross income number and it was like 33 million or something million. And he was like, how would you like to make $30,000 a day? And I'm like, you fucking liar. You didn't make
flips.
And he's a flipper. Yeah. I'm like, or a flipper wholesaler. And I'm like, you don't make that much money every day. So then one of my comments back to him was, why don't you post what's on line 17, or I'm sorry, 7, which is like an officer compensation line, or line 21, your net income. And he just sent back the eyes. Because I'm like, like you're just lying. So I think to your point, a lot of people are lying, but specifically to jump forward and sort of answer your question, I don't want to dance around it, is you specifically, purchase prices of the rentals have not been large enough to offset the amount of money that you've made. You've had a really good last couple of years. I mean, to talk about your business a little bit more, what's the best margin business that you run now?
Margin, wholesaling
and
flipping.
No.
And coaching.
Yeah. Right. It's such a high margin business that you're producing a lot of income that you're not deploying the money fast enough into investments, which is not a bad thing because you've built a great portfolio. But okay, so you're starting out. No one tells you about any of this. So your first real rude awakening is 2017. You go to do your taxes. They're like, I need this. So that was your first probably hint of needing to do bookkeeping. What did you do through? When did I meet you? I partnered with Ryan in 2020 is when we started the firm, but I knew Ryan in 2019.
So I think
were you around in 2018, 2019?
Yeah, I think it was because I remember talking to you when I was at the gym, and that was like pre-COVID because gyms were shut down. 2020.
We were at the gym together?
No. I was talking to you while I was at the gym. One of our first conversations, I was at the gym. In 2020 and 2021, all the gyms were closed. Yeah. So I know it was like somewhere in there.
So what did your tax situation start to look like then when you're 2 or 3 years into business? 2018, 19, 20. Like, were you still using the same accountant that you walked in to try to use in 2017? So, why did you leave? Why did you jump around?
I didn't jump around. So I moved to California. So 2016, 2017, I was in Vegas. Then I moved to California in 2018, 2019. I was using some lady. And then after I started working with a CPA that was at my current office.
Oh, so that's good. That's good. They usually have a guy or gal that does it for other people in the office.
They were in the building. They weren't like
part of your
brokerage.
Business.
Yeah. So I started working with them. And then I met someone that specialized in real estate. and then I started working with them, and then I started working with you. So I've had like 3 CPAs, we'll say. How much do you charge to keep someone's books up every month? How much does that cost?
So you're talking bookkeeping.
Bookkeeping.
We have just brought prices down to starting at $250.
Okay.
The only 2 things we look at for bookkeeping are complexity and transaction volume.
Okay.
So how many transactions do you have? Are you an Amazon store that has 2,000 transactions? But that's very low complexity. And so we can handle someone's books that has 1,000 transactions like that because you just automate the rules. The software is so good nowadays that it can handle. For example, I can say anytime money leaves this bank account and has this bank memo, do this, and it's done. So, but if you're a home flipper where you're buying properties, we need to do journal entries, we need to classify things by project, that gets more complex. So the transaction count may go low, but complexity is high, and there's just a sliding scale.
I want you guys to just do my books. That's it. Moving forward, you guys just do my books.
So let's jump forward though. So like, what even causes you to say that out of frustration now? Is it because you've gone,
so
we'll call
annoying.
it 8, 9 years that you always feel like you're in sort of a catch-up mode? You're never ahead.
Yeah, I'm never ahead. And like, this is where my frustration with you is, where I was just like, dude, I wish someone would have sat down with me and been like, Brian, listen, like, buddy, like,
Hand on the shoulder.
You have to do this. Like, you're going to pay late fees. You're going to pay and catch up. You're going to pay and XYZ. Just do it. Trust me. And I would have done it. But I was like, oh, like,
you think it would have given you that much? Had that been a real serious, probably not so much of
joking,
a verbal back and forth, joking, me yelling at you. Yes, but someone to be like, as a professional, this is what it's going to cost you.
Yeah. It's going to cost you this. It's going to cost you that. It's going to cost you this. Then I would have been like, all right, let's just try it. And then if I would have been forced or sold to try it, then when I would have went away from it, I would have been like, oh crap, like, this is way harder. Let me just jump back in.
You would have saw what the dynamic, like the black and white of,
exactly.
I wasn't doing it. Now I'm doing it. Let me go try to do this. Oh, I need to go back.
Yeah. I think, but obviously it's my fault because I'm the ultimate decision maker. And I think I am very, I would say,
do you think
hard-headed?
Well, no, but what I want to hit on is,
I would say ignorant.
Sure, that's fine though. But to your point, like, I tell people in this space, the scariest thing in tax for clients is someone like you that's not in taxes. The worst thing is you don't know what you don't know, especially in this industry. You're not a tax person. So I think you did what a lot of other people do, which is, there's got to be a better, cheaper alternative.
Yeah.
Which is what everybody does, which is why I kind of chuckle before we even sat down to film this when you're like, man, I wish you would have just sat me down. But you'd be surprised to see some of the conversations that I have. And you're right. Maybe it's like I need to film some of these and show you because we tell people the same thing. I tell people that you're going to pay more in professional fees. If somebody comes to me clean, they're $1,000. Somebody comes to me messy, they're $1,800 because now I need to dig through that dirty work. And for bookkeeping specifically, there's 2 components. There's the client that just needs it done for taxes. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see my books. I don't care. Sure, I'll ask what I make here and there, but I just need it done for the tax return. Because remember, when you're self-employed, you run a business, you have a rental, there's no document that you just hand us. It is the document that is your bookkeeping, your P&L. Someone needs to do that work all year long. Or there's the person that is like, I want to know the health of my business. I want to look at my numbers every month and see how my business is operating, where I'm losing money, where I'm spending money. So there's 2 different types of clients that we look at in bookkeeping, but both are very price conscious. So you feel that it's more of a scare that we need to implement into them to get them to buy. Because now I'm asking you as a person that sells bookkeeping, how do I get more clients? You think I need to be more serious up front in, hey, this is what's going to happen if you don't.
It needs to be a, hey, this is what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Boom, 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 boom. This is other people just like you that didn't listen. Look at this late fee they paid. Mm-hmm. Look at this. Look, this guy got audited and it took up XYZ.
Well, let's not even talk about the auditing because remember, as you know, and not as you know, like you've been audited, but we've talked about this. Audited, if you get audited, the first thing that they're going to ask for is, hey, I need the support for this number.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? That comes from your QuickBook file or an accounting spreadsheet or something.
Exactly, yeah. So if I were you, I would literally be like, listen, I would bring them in here into the office and be like, look, if you don't want to do it, honestly, you're probably better off just finding another CPA. Like, I would literally just put the pressure on people because it benefits them in the long run and it benefits you guys. So instead of like April or October, they're like, Matt, like, I'm ready to file. And you're like, well, I need da-da-da-da. And they're like, oh, and then they give half and then they go back to whatever they're doing, which I'm sure people are, because that's how I was. Like, it would just clean them up. And then you could be like, hey, look, trust me for 1 year. Let's do it for 1 year. If you don't like it next year, just don't do it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because then there's no way. So, as you see now, and again, we're going to get you on that path now. Because now this sort of success story is we've engaged to do actual bookkeeping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've told Brian over there, the success story is which there will be a part 2 here. It took us 5 years, but it is now we're engaged to do not only tax return work, but hey, it's late. Hey, where is this? Oh, I'm working on it. So-and-so's doing it. We're going to do it. Because as you said, it is a lot better for us and the client. Because if we do the books, 12/31, December 31st rolls around, we close out the books because we've already been doing them. We send it off to the tax team. They do the tax return, and you're done by April if that's what you want to do. So I'm excited for people to see then the other side of success. Yeah, we're going to see the other side. And I feel like I even sent you a text. I was like, hey, man, I'm excited to see you see not only now, but TrueBooks for the full service. But as a business owner, to just be ready and fucking prepared.
Exactly, yeah.
So then, okay, so, I mean, we can keep this short, wrap it up. Looking back then, because I will say, and I've even told people this, you in 2016, 17, 16, made a lot of money. A good amount of money to where I'd say our old fees were $500 a month minimum. So that's $6,000 a year. That is a lot. So I would tell somebody, let's say an agent that comes out is making 80 to 100 grand. I've even told them $500 a month is a lot. It would really only cost you, let's call it 3 to 5 hours of your own time a month. You need to stick to it and do it. But I get it. I wouldn't spend the $6,000 a year. Put that into your marketing. You know you're a sales guy.
But maybe now in hindsight, I should have just paid.
Well, you made enough money though, so that makes more sense. But step into the shoes of somebody making 80 grand to 100 grand, a little bit more realistic for their first year of business. Do you think looking back, it was reasonable to be like, hey, I should have? Is one of your I wish would have been to just spend more time doing it yourself? No. Or would you just still be on that train of hire somebody immediately? I should have just paid. Yeah.
It depends
but that is
on
your
the
demeanor of paying people.
Yeah, it is.
You'd rather
it
pay
is,
the professional.
But it also depends on people's strengths. So this is I am not good at accounting. I'm not. Yeah. There are some people that could sit there and look at QuickBooks and figure it out. Mm-hmm. There are those types of people. Yeah. I am not that type of person. Yeah. So I should have been like, you know what? I just need to pay. Mm-hmm. I don't want to pay the $500, but I'm going to pay and I'm going to just get it done instead of like every year, like, oh, here we go. Filing late, filing extension, doing all this crap. Yeah. And then just the stress, like every time right now I want to buy another house. That's why I'm like, I need to like get these taxes done because I'm going to need a loan. They're going to ask for my tax returns. Right. And here's where bookkeeping and all this bull crap bites you in the butt again. You could go the non-tax return route on a loan, but again, you're going to pay more. You're paying higher origination fees. You're paying a higher interest rate. You're putting more money down instead of paying a stupid bookkeeper to just do it and then get a clear loan. People rather go no paper loan route.
And let's talk about how, right, to backtrack that, he's going to get a loan for a rental property or a property. They're going to ask for tax returns. You don't have tax returns until you do your bookkeeping. Mm-hmm. And so this is this sort of trickle effect as to, I tell people, if you don't do bookkeeping, it's going to cost you more in professional fees, interest and penalties because you're late. We do something similar to what it is that you're saying where I would love to get to a point to do what you're saying, which is, hey, I love you, would love to help you, but we only engage with clients where we do bookkeeping and tax. If you run a business, we need to do your bookkeeping and your tax. Yeah. There are firms that do that. But as somebody that is still in a sales mode, a startup mode, we've had the firm for 5 years, I'm willing to take on, hey, just the tax work. And what we do in a sales process is say, hey, Brian, I notice in your situation that you have rentals, you run a business, so come tax time, I'm going to need XYZ. Are you going to do it or are we going to do it? We take that approach as more of just getting a verbal confirmation, but still bites us in the ass.
But I think
they're still late. They still don't do it to the way that we need it.
And that's where you have to grow, in my opinion, as the business owner to be like, hey, look, like I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for us too, but you are going to pay. I promise you. If you have the conviction of you're going to pay more, trust me.
Oh, that's a
late
good term,
fees are going to back cleanup is more expensive than front cleanup. I don't know if that's true in your guys' scenario. I'm guessing it is, right? Like when
How
someone has
cleanups
to
are more
go
expensive?
Yeah, like if I were to say, "Hey, go clean up 2023," and I have a crap ton of expenses, does that cost the same as doing 2025 as it comes in? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes. Cleanup is always going to cost you more in penalties and
Exactly.
professional fees.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it's going to cost you more, late fees, professional fees. If you're trying to buy a house, stress, time, worried about all this crap, like why don't let us worry about your taxes? You worry about making money instead of like spending 4 to 6 months in this weird zone of you don't know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So
That's
that's
a good
what
term,
I would do for I were you.
Which
What term?
conviction. We had a sales
Yeah.
meeting this morning, and one of the topics was conviction of like, he had asked one of our guys, like, do you have conviction that they're going to be able to help solve the problem that it is this prospect has? And one thing, I started my career in accounting before I did taxes. So I have a real love for financial statements, just making sure shit is accurate.
Yeah.
Because I look at it from I don't just need it for a tax return. I want to know the health of a business. I'm an
Yeah.
accountant. I'm a CPA.
Yeah.
So I know that if something's shady, give me a balance sheet and I'll know in seconds.
Yeah.
So I like to know that that is something that I would have 1,000 million% conviction in and now we see it. You are a story of it. I know it's going to cost somebody in the long run if they don't do it.
But you don't have conviction.
I don't have
to
conviction
make-
that they're going to buy, I think, which is why
Yeah,
I don't,
to make
which is
them
why
do
we
it.
don't have that process.
Yeah.
We don't make them do that.
Yeah.
I think that client's going to walk away.
Yeah. Well, you don't have enough conviction on how important it is because if you did, then you would be like, you have to do this. Like Matt,
You mean
like,
through us or show us that you're paying someone else to do it.
yeah. Like Matt, you have to do this. Like this is going to be bad. Look at this other client. Look how much they paid. They paid $31,000 in late fees. Look at this other client. They paid in late fees. Look at this other client. We charged them $5,000 or whatever on cleanup, and it would have cost $2,000 if we would have just done it up front. Like, trust me, just do it.
That's a good point.
Don't mess around with it. But then, as the business owner your conviction also will trickle into your employees or salespeople, because if they're like, are you gonna do your bookkeeping? No? Okay, cool. All right, cool. We'll just do tax. And then they collect. But if they have the conviction, but it starts with you and then trickles to them and then it trickles to the client. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that they're sort of hearing the same message from all teams.
Yeah. Because if you're just like, I don't want to force them, then the salespeople are going to say, I don't want to force them. And then the client's like, I don't really have to do it.
They're not really hearing like that consistent message.
Yeah. And your salespeople or whoever is, or your salespeople, and I'm guessing your tax return people, if all of them are like, dude, you need to have us do this. Like if they're hearing it from everyone, they're rather going to just go somewhere else, or they're going to be like, okay, like I need to do it.
That was our thing too, is we didn't want to lose people to other firms, which is why we tried so hard to get the price point down. Because QuickBooks right now, I think their minimum is $300 a month. So even if you go to, because it's like, hey, if you're not going to sign with us, even if you go to QuickBooks, one of the largest providers, they're $300 a month.
Yeah.
So people look at it as such a commodity, which is fine. It is. Like at some point, some businesses are commodities. When there's so many other providers in the marketplace, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it was just trying to be competitive on price so we could still grab the good
Yeah,
market
maybe your pricing was high.
It was very high.
Yeah.
We only had onshore labor doing it. So now we've kind of got that solved. But
Yeah. So that's just what I've learned with just running a business or anything in general. Like when I was a realtor, I would tell people like, dude, you need to get a home inspection. Like you have to do it. They're like, no, everything looks good. I'm like, dude, like I've seen it a million and one times. You move in,
you know, it's
the roof
not even
leaks.
non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's like you have to do it. And then if you don't do it, we had you sign an agreement acknowledging that. It's like it would be so clear. Like Brian Davila suggested,
you to do this,
XYZ on this date and on text. Client refused to listen to the advice of Brian Davila and chose to buy the house in as is condition without doing a professional home inspection against what Brian Davila did. Because we've had so many times where they're like, you sold me this bad house. And I'm like, bro, I told you to do a home inspection.
Yeah.
You just didn't listen. And you signed this paper. So a lot of the times once they read that, they're like, all right, I'll just do it. But if someone's not a CPA or a bookkeeper, they don't understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand
So you think the way to get it through to them is the fear of the penalties and more monetary
the
penalty?
fear, the fear, and it's always going to depend. Like I said, some people I'm sure you talk to, they're like, oh, they're going to be able to figure it out. Other people I'm sure you talk to, you're like, they're not going to be able to figure it out. They're a salesperson.
We know.
Yeah, they're slanging deals, and that's great. Let them go do that, and we do this. And then also I would, because as an entrepreneur and salesperson, in my brain, I'm like, I should just hire someone to do this. I think you heard me say that. I'm like, I'll just hire a full-time person. And you'd be like, Brian, look, it's going to cost you $500 or $800. Why would you go spend $5,000?
Yep.
Like, just have us do it. But it's just handling all those objections, because as entrepreneurs, I'm sure we're like, oh, my assistant will do it. Like,
that's what a lot of people say.
Exactly.
Which is sometimes it's a great option. But if your assistant doesn't have that skill set, or they're already stretched in with what they're doing, because that's the value prop for us. Hey, anybody's like, one of the best things we could have done is a client of ours leave us for bookkeeping because they hired an internal accountant. They've graduated. Yeah. They don't need a third party. They have somebody internally. They've gotten that big. But the monetary benefit is, let's say they pay us $1,000 a month. We're $12,000 a year, versus you hire a staff accountant, you're $40,000.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have that $40,000 person a year do this, that, and whatsoever, then it works. But okay, so wrap this up then. So what would you say your perception of bookkeeping and taxes are now that you're 9 years into business versus 2016 Brian Davila? What would you leave to 2016 Brian Davila now on camera if you
hire a bookkeeper? Hire a bookkeeper. Hire a bookkeeper. Hire a CPA that knows real estate, because I will say I've worked, even like my current bookkeeper, there's nothing more frustrating than when you talk to someone that doesn't understand your industry, and they're like, oh, so you own this property and you collected $2,000. Oh, so you netted $2,000 on this deal. That's good. Then you're just like, oh, you don't know how real estate works. You didn't even think that I had a mortgage.
And just so you know, the current, not us.
Yeah. The one before. And this is like previous years where they're like, oh, you sold a house and you made $150,000. That's really good. And I'm like, no, well, having to
educate them.
Yeah, I'm having to teach them on how my industry works, and that's not good. Nope. Like,
it's wasted time.
It's wasted time.
And it leads you to think that they're not going to do it right.
Yeah, it's like hiring someone that makes landing pages, and they're asking me how it works. That shouldn't be the case. They should tell me, hey, use ClickFunnels, have an opt-in page, do this form, test the conversions. I shouldn't be like, hey, we need to do this. You need to go get this software. Mm-hmm. This is how my industry works. So yeah, just hiring bookkeeper and CPA, if you can get it all in one upfront. And then 2, working with someone that specifically understands your industry, because every industry is different. So, don't just go with the local guy just because the building says taxes. That's what I did like the first 5 or 6 years. Yeah, it is, because people don't understand. Mm-hmm. I still don't understand taxes. And I would say I'm a decently leveled entrepreneur, and I still don't fully understand what the hell is going on. I just know, like, in all honesty, I'm just hoping Trump gets rid of the IRS. That's literally all I'm banking on. I'm like, if Trump gets rid of the IRS, I'm just good.
Ride this out for a couple years.
Okay, before we wrap this podcast, what do you think is going to happen with Trump and the IRS? Look at me just clip farming for you.
Clip farm. I think that I think he's going to extend his rules from 2016. The Tax Cuts Jobs Act. So qualified business income deduction, that was that small 20% deduction for, sort of small business owners. I think I think he'll try to bring back 100% bonus depreciation. Me and another CPA bleeped that out, said he'd get a tattoo if he didn't see 100% bonus depreciation come back. So I think he's going to extend his previous rules that he had in place. But I do not think it's going to go back to the year 2024 retroactively. I think it's going to be, if anything, for 2025 or 6 going forward.
Do you think he's going to get rid of the IRS?
No.
Why not?
There's too much to manage. I don't think that you're going to get rid of the income tax structure of citizens paying tax, and that is, you're going to need a governing body to manage the rules of what that is, collecting the tax, setting the rules for what tax is owed. So I think that it could be tremendously downsized, though, which let's talk about how, or quickly say how I think that's going to affect people. I think less audits.
That's
because
good.
they're not going to have the manpower for it. Like,
Hell yeah.
so I don't think that they're.
I hate the IRS. I hate the IRS, bro.
So that's where selfishly I don't wish that they get abolished because that is my profession. Do I think that there's other ways that we can make money as CPAs? Yes. But
How much money does America collect a year from people paying taxes?
couldn't even tell you. And
Can
I
you
should
look
know
it
that
up?
as a CPA.
Yeah, look it up.
Let's ask Siri.
Or ask ChatGPT.
What is the average amount of tax revenue collected in the United States annually?
Do you want me to use ChatGPT to?
Yes. Dang, I didn't even know they
I
connected.
didn't know either. That's trippy, bro.
In fiscal year 2023, the U.S. federal government
They
collected
$4.2 trillion.
Okay, so $4.2 trillion.
A
So
year.
if
So let's just say $4 trillion a year.
$4 trillion a year. So if Trump is able to cut with Doge, right, our spending, and then collect $4 trillion in tariff money, then
Well, I think
we
it'll
would
be a
good.
combination. Again, I don't think because why would you get rid of tax? Tax makes sense.
Well, Trump is trying to get rid of tax. Who does it make sense for? It makes sense for the government. It doesn't make sense for Americans.
Yes, but we don't need to dive into this too much. But you understand the whole tariff piece. Tariff is essentially a tax on this, on people here.
on
because
other
you're just
people.
increasing. Well, no, it's
Well, supposedly the other countries are going to pay the tariff. Yeah,
Some
our
tariffs.
goods will go up, but then
Yes.
we don't have to pay income tax.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're essentially just swapping what income tax is for the tariff, which is why
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be a combination of the two. I don't think it's going to be just one. And the income tax system works. It's just sometimes very skewed between who it's helping. Is it helping more lower income, middle income, or as you say that they're always helping and benefiting the billionaires? So, but as you know now, as you've earned more income and grown more into experience in your business and sort of investing journey, that the tax code is meant and sort of catered to real estate investors, business owners. You have more loopholes, we'll say, and benefits to use the tax code versus a typical $100,000 W-2 earner. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be a combination of both. But I do think that, yes, he's going to come back with good tax reform that are beneficial for real estate investors, business owners, and I think it's going to start in 25 and 26 going forward.
Yeah, I genuinely hope he cuts the IRS by like 2/3, like lays off 2/3 of the people, and then lowers taxes.
Amen.
Yeah, amen.
Amen. All right, dude. Well, I appreciate your time. This
Yeah,
was
that was
good.
great. Yeah, that was
This is
great.
good. Told you this is
episode.
good. Okay. And that'll do it for the first episode where, again, we bring on clients to talk about tax and accounting and their journey of their experiences with this profession. Again, as a CPA, I'm a little biased. I have a love for tax and accounting, but what better to hear from actual business owners, investors on their experience with it and what they think through their journey of the years of dealing with it. So cheers. We'll see you on the next one.